Hello, my name is NHowes. This is my case study on internet use violations. Concerning category 1, we are identifying the problem and doing an analysis. So the information that I know reading the case is that the high school is in an affluent area. The principal, Dr. Smith, has been there for 9 years, and he is highly regarded in the neighborhood. And he's also very proud of the work that he has done and the reputation he has built for the school. Ms. Tate is a single woman in her beginning of her second year of teaching. The students that are in her class are all very academically competitive. This is an advanced class that seems to have a lot of students that are going for perfect GPAs and competing for valedictorian. So with that in mind, the parents are already beginning to complain that her classes are very strenuous and it causes a lot of stress on the students. So the teacher this past weekend received an anonymous email. It happened to be a 3-day holiday weekend, so she was out of town and did not get it until returning on Sunday. When she read the email, it directed her to take a look at a Facebook page, which she did, and felt very threatened by the language and accusations that were on there. At that point, she immediately called her supervisor, Dr. Smith, and reported the email, who asked to have it sent to him. And once looking at it, said that he thought that it was probably a prank, didn't take it very seriously or seemed to think that there was much concern. He says that possibly there was a student involved and asks if there were any disgruntled or disruptive students in the class recently. Ms. Tate at that point then reports that there was a student, William Hall, makes a snide remark about her, but she's never been able to catch him actually doing it. She's just heard it. And Dr. Smith says that he will print the email on the Facebook page and plan to talk to Ms. Tate and the students involved in this case and see what they can sort out and come up with. Ms. Tate states that she is fearful for her life and thinks that they are going to, quote unquote, kill her. So she decides to drive back to her parents' home, which is where she has been for the weekend. Knowing that she is a single woman, that doesn't seem too out of the ordinary, except in reading the case, you do know that that is a 3-hour drive one way. So she is pretty nervous and concerned. Things that I need to know to make some decisions in the case are the school and district policies on the internet use and how they would come into play here. I need to know if this was done on a personal or a school email account. Being that it was on the weekend, I'm not sure if the school is actually involved in the investigation of it. As well as needing to know if it's a district provided device, if it is something that we have given the students to take home, for example, in a one-to-one environment. I know that there are typically expectations that go along with that and responsibilities that go with the device. So I'm not sure if this is something that we provided or not. So if there are any policies, I do need to know what exactly they are and what I need to follow to make sure that they are all being followed and happening in the right way. So I would expect to be able to find out where the email came from, hopefully or obviously with some help from some IT people, either in my district or possibly with the police department. I would like to know if I can find out who created the Facebook account or the page, if it is only one simple page. And if there are any legal ramifications. This is not something that currently I would say I am proficient in, so I would definitely need to do some research on that and make sure that I am following all of the laws and expectations as required. And then finally, I would want to make sure that I am providing some support for Ms. Tate, the teacher, and I need to know what kinds of programs the district provides. Is it just working with the administrator or are there other things involved? So the problems that I've identified that I would be working on, one obviously is the immediate threat, finding out how serious it is, who it involves, and what the school's role is in the situation. And then obviously, if there are students involved, some discipline for the threat, but then also probably working on the discipline in Miss Tate's class and talking to the students about their expected behavior in class. And then finally, Miss Tate. Clearly, she has been spoken to already by Dr. Smith, and it seems that things are not getting any better in her classroom. So I would want to have some follow-up with her and see what we can do to help her with the problems in her class. So category 2 deals with the proposed plan of action. And I have here some immediate steps that I would take. I think that the first thing I would do as the educational leader would be to contact my supervisor, explain the situation, and turn over all information to the district so that everybody understands exactly what information I have that I'm dealing with right now. And then at that point, if it is decided that the police need to be involved, that would be the next phone call that I would make. Again, turning over information and being completely transparent in everything that I know to this point. I would also try to have an action plan on finding out where the threat came from. Again, this would require help from an IT department. If it is a school device, we can probably do it through our own IT department. If it is a school email, I know for a fact that we can get that information. If it is not, then I might need to enlist somebody else, like I said, possibly the IT departments in the police department. So finding out finding out who is involved could include a couple of different departments. And then I would, the day of school, the next day, I would want to speak to my school security and counselors before school and inform them of the situation that happened over the weekend with Miss Tate, and give them the basic information, and so that they understand the seriousness of it, but making sure that they're also aware of what's going on so that they can keep their ears open during the day and report to me if they hear any students talking about it or other teachers, or just anyone in general. And then I obviously want to check in with Mrs. Tate. I want to make sure that she feels secure coming back to work. So I would offer some extra help for her if she needs another adult in the room, or if she would like to possibly use a personal necessity day and take the day off, or if we need to have security near or in her room, then that would be something that I could provide for that day as well, or in the future. I would also like to have an action plan to gather information from the students. Again, not knowing whether this came from a student or not. I don't know if it was a parent that created this Facebook page. So I feel like talking to the students might be a good place to start, not necessarily assuming that they are involved, but knowing that they may have some information and they are my most closest contact at the time. I would also have a plan in place to increase visibility on campus, seeing as how I will probably be busy and tied up throughout the day in speaking to students, possibly the district and police departments. I would enlist the help of my counselors to be in classrooms, be walking around during the passing periods, possibly even having assigned posts for them, having them out in the quad areas during lunch, just being more visible so that the students can talk to them if they feel like it, and also so that they can kind of, like I said, keep their ear to the ground and see if there are any rumors that are out there. And finally, I know for my district, it is required that a letter be sent home to inform parents, students, and staff of the incident. And in this situation, I would want to make sure that it remains confidential so that there are no names or details that may necessarily share somebody's information that's not necessarily needed. So that letter would have to be most likely approved by my supervisor first. My final parts of my action plan would actually come into play a little bit later. I would want to work with the school counselors to increase the understanding of bullying and the consequences to the students, not just to the person who is the bully, but also what happens when someone is being bullied. So if we could have an anti-bullying campaign, if that's not something that's already in place, we could start that, or if there's something that needs to be revisited, that would be something I would include in my plan. Also, I think that a digital citizenship plan is called for at this point. It seems to me that the students, having all of the technology that we know they have at home and at school, are probably using a lot of internet time or on the internet a lot. And so digital citizenship is kind of becoming a way of life, the same as you would be considered a good citizen in your in your real community. The expectation should be there as well in the virtual community. So I would look at some lessons that are already provided from Common Sense Media and try to get those implemented into my classes. And then finally with Ms. Tate, again, I would want to make sure that I can help her in succeeding in her class, knowing that she is new and has high expectations and very rigorous lessons. I want to offer her some mentorship or some way that she can make her job a little bit easier so that it is not necessarily something that in the long term ends up stressing her out as well. So the resolve the issues based on promoting the academic success and personal well-being of the students is a priority as an educational leader. I believe that first I would ensure the safety of the students and staff by contacting the authorities. This was one of the pieces while reading the case that I was worried when Dr. Smith did not do that or recommend it to Ms. Tate. I feel like he was protecting his school a little bit too much and his reputation. So that would be my first recommendation. Secondly, to Ms. Tate, I want to make sure that her class, as I stated, is less stressful for her students, which also in turn would be less stressful for her. Nobody likes to come and work in an environment that is hostile or has people that are unhappy to be in the situation. So I would try to continue to mentor her and then include a plan and possibly see if there's any professional trainings in the area that she can attend. Finally, I would work with the staff and hopefully a leadership type group that I can propose that we become a Common Sense Media certified school that would then put the focus on that digital citizenship piece throughout the entire site so that it is not just one lesson throughout the year or one classroom here and there that students may be getting, but something that they are hearing all the time and can apply to a lifelong skill. So the debrief of the problem in category 4, when I originally read this case, as I stated, my initial thoughts were, why isn't Dr. Smith calling someone, whether it be the police or the IT department for the school, and try to immediately find out what's going on, or even his own supervisor. I was shocked that he stated he was going to wait until the morning to do anything besides just printing out the email and the Facebook page. I, again, was concerned that he was trying to protect his own reputation and the reputation of the school that he had worked so hard to build. I was a little concerned or actually confused by Ms. Tate's reaction as well. When I read the words of who else wants Ms. Tate gone, who wants Ms. Tate to disappear, I didn't take that as a death threat. So, as an educational leader, I would take her feelings seriously, but reading it and doing a debrief, I think that that was something that was kind of a little extreme for her to believe. But I also am not sure that when she asked if she should call the police, I, as an educational leader, would have told her to do what makes her feel the most comfortable. Clearly, she was feeling threatened at that point, and I'm not sure that that was Dr. Smith's best decision to make at that time. And finally, the case leads me to value the power of the internet and just how important it is to model good citizenship. As I stated, it's not necessarily just good citizenship in your community, but also in the virtual community of the internet. It's just becoming more and more important that students realize that what they're doing on the internet is affecting everybody the way that it would be in the community in real life. So the unresolved issues here, I felt like, obviously I did not know who all was involved. I was not sure that it's even students. It could have been parents, knowing that the parents were upset with Ms. Tate as well. It wouldn't be the first time that parents would get involved in this way. So the fact that Dr. Smith jumped to the conclusion and asked Ms. Tate if there were any disgruntled or disruptive students in her class concerned me. That was something that I'm not sure that that was the right avenue to take. The other unresolved issue in Ms. Tate's class expectations and relationships with her students and parents. It was stated that Dr. Smith has already talked to her about these concerns, and it doesn't seem like there have been any changes that have made, or at least the students have not perceived that they are still unhappy in the class. So I believe that there's some follow-up action that is required. As I said, either a mentor program, possibly a professional development that she can attend. So it is important that the education leader at the building level applies knowledge that promotes success of every student by acting with integrity. So thinking about the students in this case and what is best for them, I would definitely want to make sure that I listen to the student and parent concerns. I know that Dr. Smith did have some comment that had already been something that had happened, but clearly, as I said, the situation has not been resolved. So also, I want to take into consideration the competitive nature of the students when working with Ms. Tate, and making sure that she understands and realizes exactly what these students are after. It might not necessarily be that they are upset with her as much as they are just competitive and feeling a lot of pressure from their parents to actually get that spot of valedictorian. And then finally, also sending home a letter without violating anyone's privacy, making sure that everybody understands what the situation was and whether or not it has been resolved or having to give some follow-up later. Treating this case with fairness. As the educational leader, again, thinking about what's best for my students, I think that it would be best to actually help Ms. Tate with her class expectations. She seems to be highly qualified, but being that she's only in her second year, that is the time when mentorship really comes into play. And I think that her having another teacher may be a possibility, as well as having somebody that's from her own department that she can talk to about planning and those types of things. Also, having the counselors visually present for the students to talk to. I mentioned about having them the next day be there and be available for the students to talk to. Also, if they needed to come into the office and talk to someone in private, that could be arranged as well. But I think that it is only fair that anybody is given the opportunity to talk about their concerns revolving around the case. And then also working with the IT department. I think that this would be fair in finding out who was involved instead of just jumping to the conclusions that it might have been the students that Ms. Tate thinks was disgruntled. I would like to have some hard proof as opposed to just someone's feelings on it, and that to me seems fair. Being able to act in an ethical manner and being the education leader in this case, I think that what's best for my students would be definitely setting up a mentor for Ms. Tate, continue to work with her throughout the year, providing counseling for any students and even parents if they need it, as well as staff throughout the following days and weeks. And obviously meeting with the parents. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of concern after this letter goes home. And I think that it's only fair that I'm available to answer questions as much as I can, and reassure them that we are doing everything we can to make sure that the students are safe here at our school. So this concludes my case study. I did use a couple of references here, and my creation for my slide is not my own original work, so I have given some credits here as well. Thank you for watching.